I was chatting away to my guest who was arrived in the studio. So at school, she played hockey until one day she came across soccer and she was hooked, and from the age of 13, where she joined her local Melville club to kick the ball internationally. She still plays soccer for her old club, but as goalkeeper. Guess who it is? This is a football historian from the World Football Program, Saturday morning, Radio Fremantle 107.9 FM. Welcome to the studio, Penny Tanner.
Mary-Lou, thank you very much for asking me. This is great to be on the other side of a microphone.
On the other side, yeah. It's great to have you here. At 13, you were playing hockey. And then, so go through that again. So you're playing hockey. Tell us what you liked about hockey first.
Well, I was incredibly sporty.
Yeah.
And anything that could get me outdoors and enjoying being athletic was good for me.
Yeah.
And in primary school, I had a teacher that was going out with Rick Charlesworth at the time. So the great hockey.
Did we talk about that?
There was that link there from primary school, which carried through to high school for me. And so I played hockey, and I loved it. I suppose it was the first sport that I did as a team sport from the transition of primary school to high school, and my mates in high school wanted to play it with me, so there was a connect there, and I loved it. And I was good at it. So if you're good at something, you pretty much find enjoyment in it and you want to keep doing it. But then soccer presented at some point on the notice board of the PE department, and I thought, I'll dabble in that. So I did, and that was even more fun than hockey. And I thought, I could do this for a lifetime. And I was only little, so I used to get razzed about being little and skinny and stuff like that, but I was incredibly athletic. So even though I used to get razzed about a lot of other things, I was always picked on the teams. So playing hockey and playing soccer meant that I would be included because I was athletic. I'd be on the team. So I love that part.
So what was it that you loved about it? Was it the running around, the kicking the ball, the teamwork,
I don't know. I suppose I had a good uptake, so I learnt the skills fairly fast, and I was pretty quick. Being fairly small, I guess I had a low centre of gravity. Think of Messi, the Argentine captain, who's quite small and turns on a 5-cent piece.
Right.
I was pretty much like that, so I was nippy and could get around players, and I could score really goals. And
you were really good at it.
Yeah. So I went and joined a club. So I did the school soccer, and then I joined my local club, which was Melville, which I'm at today after a few decades now, and a few deviations along the way. But I grew, and by the time I was, I think 18, I started 18 to 21. I had my growth spurt, so I had already learnt the skills in that space. And then I grew and became stronger and started to represent state teams. And there was just such a connect with people. I love to connect with people. I love to talk. I loved it. There was everything about a team sport, the mateship, the learning, the mentoring, the enjoyment. Everything was there. It could have been another sport, but it was soccer. And I'm pretty sure if I'd stayed playing hockey, I would have got that same experience. But I just got that little extra bit of, I was pretty good at soccer, and I got all the other parts as well. And it took me on journeys as well, state team journeys out of Australia.
So tell us about that transition to the state team, because you were the youngest in a team, weren't you?
I was at the time, for sure, and I was 17 or 18, and the average age then was, I don't know, probably mid-20s, I guess. Which is still fairly young, but there was the likes of...
Really, that's young for soccer, is it?
Well, there's been a big change. If you think of women's soccer now, you can think of teenagers playing for the Matildas, so the recent World Cup that we've had here in Australia and New Zealand, there's been teenagers playing in the team. When they first started, the Caitlin Fords and so forth, they were 15, 16 playing in the national team, and that was very young for the national team, but now it's par for the course because the pathways are there. If you think of state team football, way back in the decades when I played it in the 80s and 90s, the average age was a mature woman. And I was definitely not a mature woman. I was a kid.
And so what do you think changed?
There was more people playing football. So over time, there was younger people filling the pathways. So they would be into development programs and clubs, etc., earlier.
Right, yeah. And I found it fascinating that you call it football too, because not that I'm an AFL fan,
Me either.
Yes, I love the story about the transition from calling it soccer to football.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I swap in my conversations depending who I'm talking to, because my family is definitely
you're talking
AFL.
to thousands of people out there.
Yes. Well, if I say soccer, everybody knows it's the round ball game, it's the world game. If I say football, if I'm in a room full of people that love their rugby or their AFL, then they'll immediately think of that oval-shaped thing that bounces crazy.
Yeah.
It's... I know, I do it on air when I'm on the World Football Programme Saturday mornings. I transition from soccer to football, and people say, Penny, you should say football because it's football, it's a world game. But I'm like, yeah, it's also soccer. Yeah. And there are a few countries that still call it soccer. South Africa, America.
I wonder where the origin came from.
Association Football, Soccer, ASOC Football Association. So it just abbreviated, I think, downwards.
Well, that's fascinating.
Long history.
You were the youngest in that team.
Yep.
Let's get back. What team was that?
That was the West Australian women's state team, and they were competing in a national championship, which happened once a year, and every state around Australia and every territory would submit a team of the best of any age. That's how it was back then. It was called a national championship, and from there they'd pick a national team, and if there was any tours, then the national team, which was not called the Matildas at that time, just called the Australian women's soccer team, would go into camp and travel. If there was finance available, if there was funds and resources, and if there wasn't, then they didn't. So to be selected in the team at that time was the top of the whizzer kind of thing. So there's a couple of times I got selected from those championships, and that made me feel pretty chuffed, I've got to say.
And you played for Western Australia, and then did you play for Australia as well?
I did. I was selected to play under Tom Samani in some of the Australian squad camps. There was no tours at that time, if I remember correctly, but we did play some friendlies, Australia against Australia kind of thing. I remember playing before the Socceroos match at a stadium, I think it was in Sydney, Sweden and Socceroos. I remember Robbie Slater being there. He was in the Socceroos at the time, and so I felt pretty good about myself at that time. And I think SBS interviewed me before one of the games at Newcastle too. I did get selected in an Australian university squad, and we travelled to the World Games in Canada in 1993. So I was the vice captain of the team. Sarah King, who just recently got her cap playing for the Matildas in front of 60,000 people, she was also my co-vice captain. She's living here in West Australia now. She was a goalkeeper.
And so then she's not a spring chicken like a teenager or early 20s.
Nope.
And she's playing for the Matildas.
No.
Oh, so I missed that.
So
how'd she get a cap? How'd she get a cap? I want you to get a cap.
Thanks. You get a cap, which is an actual green gold cap embroidered with Football Australia and the fact that you've represented a tour playing for the Australian team. Whenever you go and play, you get that cap, but it has to be a full international against another international side. So if you play in a friendly, that doesn't count, but if you play for Australia against another international side like Russia or Ukraine or whatever, then that's when you would get it.
And did you do that back in the day? You didn't?
No. No, I did not. But I got to play against some pretty amazing players who were in the national team, like Cheryl Salisbury and Nessa Tan. These are players that have played for the Matildas over decades, and they were my role models back then. So Sarah King is about my age. She lives in West Australia now. She played football over East, and she got her cap just recently, along with a few other Matildas, because Football Australia was going back through their records and updating everything and the players that they had missed over the past few decades.
Well, I think you should get an honorary, if for nothing else but the radio show that you present every Saturday morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for a while too.
Yeah, and that's another interesting story. So this radio station started with Dr. Ted Walker in 1987. And what year did you start?
The show started in 1987.
Yep, same year.
Yep, it did. And I was pretty young back then, and there was a group of people who did a sports show. I think Bill might have been one of those people that jumped in and did a general sports show, of which soccer was part of it. And Martin Wells, who was my mentor for the Saturday morning soccer show back then, was part of that. And he used to invite me to talk soccer. And I was very young, so I was just starting my soccer journey with Western Australia state team back then. So he used to ring me, and I used to give him a little bit of a report of how Western Australia went in the national championships and how things were going locally. And that just kind of blossomed to come into the studio one day, Pen. And I'm like, okay, that kind of scares me, but yep, let's give it a shot. And I loved it. So I learnt the ropes. Actually, he threw me in the deep end. There wasn't any training or anything. It was like, here, you're taking the show one day. I'm like, really?
Right.
So I learnt pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It was scary, but it was great. Like walking onto a soccer park, every time I ever play soccer, every single game of my entire life, I get nervous, excited. I felt just the same way when I step into the studio and talk football.
Great.
Yes.
And so your footy show, it goes for 2 hours. It's on Saturday from 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock.
Yep.
And is it just football that you talk about?
Yes, absolutely.
Soccer. I mean soccer, football.
Yeah, yeah. And that's
that.
Saturday morning, not in the evening.
Yes, Saturday. Yeah. No, not like when I started at the radio station here, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and I'm getting home, and I'm still awake at 3:30 in the morning. It's like, I've got to get a morning gig, and then I got this one. Thank goodness. Thank you.
I get that. Yeah, we're pretty lucky. We've always had a pretty good time slot. When the show started way back in the whenever it was 80s. It was on that Saturday morning, and it's always been around the 9 to 12 space, which before football or soccer was so busy right through the year with programs and soccer tournaments and competition and whatever it was, there was nothing on a Saturday. There was no semi-professional football. There was no men's National Premier League fixtures. There was Sunday fixtures. That was traditionally a Sunday competition for everybody. So Saturday was a great time when the families were out and about. There was shopping until 12 o'clock on those days. Now there's shopping open all the time. But it was when people were out and about, they'd put the radio on and listen to the Saturday morning soccer show.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to have it on Saturday morning,
absolutely.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
And now when we talk to people, they are on their way to a soccer game, or they're coaching on a Saturday, or they're working on a Saturday. There's so many different scenarios where we'll talk to people. We'll talk to them and they'll be on the side of their little charges, coaching, and there'll be crows in the background because they're just taking 10 minutes to have a chat to us live on air while they're standing on the side of a soccer park. So all these things have changed over time.
Well, that was a little bit different. That was a Fleetwood Mac number, and it was called Never Going Back Again from Rumours. I don't remember hearing that ever before. But anyway, right. And I'm speaking at the moment with my guest in the studio. Her name is Penny Tanner, and Penny is a football historian from the World Football Program on Saturday mornings at Radio Fremantle at 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, you were talking a little bit about what music you like to listen to, and tell everybody else.
Well, I love my soccer, and when I go to soccer, whatever I'm feeling or whatever's going on in my life, it has to be channeled and focused to bringing out my best athletic self when I play football and my best role model self. So it's all about inspiration. So songs like Brave and Bon Jovi's This Is My Life, those kind of things that really get the hackles on the back of my neck going so that I can feel like I'm going to give my best. That's inspiring me. Has to be hard hitting right from the beginning, and sometimes I get my fast forward button and I go, I don't like that part in the song, I've got to be inspired, and I fast forward it so I know where it's going to inspire me.
So now getting back to your program on Saturdays, like who do you bring on? Is it all on telephone, or do you bring people in live, or
it's a mix? Absolutely. Football brings in a lot of things into your world. It brings a connect, it brings different accents, it brings different styles of football and philosophies. It brings people from all different backgrounds. So to capture that, really, you have to be able to bring people into the studio so they can share with you the way that they would share their story. And sometimes it might be on the phone, where they're on the side of a soccer park on a Saturday morning coaching the little charges, like 6 and 7 and 8-year-old girls and boys, and you can hear the crows, or it might be a game and there's a crowd in the background. It might be a pre-recorded snapshot from one of our media partners that kind of tells about an interview pre-Matilda's game. It might be anything that helps share the story, and that's what I love, sharing the story. I like for people to talk about what inspires them and try and impart the passion to other people.
How do you set those up? Like, you have other people in the studio as well. You've got a team now, haven't
Yes,
you? Yeah.
I have a great team. I've got Sean Kelly, Peter Skeeler and Hugh Best, and then I have a whole host of other people that will come in, like Jim Webb and Lou Prospero, Dave Kindness, people that love their football just as much. They don't have the tech savvy to sit behind a microphone all the time, maybe to learn the ropes in that regard, but they'll come in and we'll have 2 or 3 people in the studio as well as the host, and we'll have a conversation. And having a conversation makes people feel comfortable. If you get the right mix and the right dynamic, they'll just want to talk about their story without feeling like it's an interview. And that's what you want. You want their personal stamp and style to come out easily.
Yeah, so they talk. So you're talking about football all the time, though.
100%, and we get distracted. We might talk about the Matildas or the Socceroos match, and then we go and we talk about how the pitches are changing from grass to hybrid to artificial surfaces and what that means for kids, and it gets too hot. You know, we might get distracted 100% of the time.
And are they all soccer players as well? I mean, football players?
Well, could be, or they could be referees, they could be administrators, they could be working at Football West or Football Australia or another body that supports it or sponsors it, many different things.
So I'm going to ask you another question about, I drive a lot. I also live around City Beach, but often drive through Floret where they've got...
the Wildcats?
The Wildcats. Yeah. So is there a big club room somewhere?
Yes.
For all soccer now?
There is now. So October 27 was the football festival when the Matildas were in town for the Olympic qualifiers, and they played their big game at Optus Stadium and HBF as well, where Perth Glory play. Yeah, so Perth Glory looking for an owner and a permanent home, really.
Right,
yeah, they've been at a few different places over the past 10 years and...
well, there's plenty of wealthy people in Perth.
Yeah, it's a big gig to take on a football team. There's a lot of wages there. Teams
and
to travel around.
Yes, I wonder when they own it like that, they must get the sponsorship money, and then the sponsorship money is what pays for it, wouldn't it be?
Well, that would be self-sustaining for sure.
So if anyone else is out there and, you know, you've got a few extra billion in your pocket.
Correct. A few extra billion is right. Yeah. Tony Sage has been the man behind Perth Glory for nth number of years, and now Football Australia are the custodians of Perth Glory while Tony stepped aside. So we're looking for a new owner and they're looking for a home. So that State Football Centre is just recently launched during the Olympic qualifiers, and the Matildas were at that football festival at the State Football Centre, which is now named the Sam Kerr State Football Centre after the athlete Sam Kerr.
Yeah.
That's where things will happen. That's where coaching education will happen. That's where the para football will be played. That's where cup finals will be played. So that's the first home of football that has been had in Western Australia since the Women's Soccer Association used Gibney Reserve, and that was almost 30 years ago. There you go. So 30 years ago, women's soccer had their own home ground in Gibney Reserve, Bayswater, which Football West still use as part of their coaching education and inclusive programs.
What about your position? What position did you used to play, and now you're playing goalie, and what was that transition like?
So when I played club football, I was midfield, and when I played state football, I was vendor and midfield, and I also played up front during some of my club football and could score a few goals. I got leading goal scorer for the association a couple of times. And then when I played in the Australian teams for the World Games, World University Games, I was defender. So when I was vice captain, I was defender. And now I'm goalkeeper. In my later career, I took to coaching. I never thought I would, but I love coaching. My daughter, who's now 17, entered football when she was 5 at Melville, and under a terrific, passionate coach, Greg O'Donoghue, and was doing the mini football. It's so cute seeing all those kids run around on Saturday morning like, you know, half-size humans trying to kick a ball, and it's very cute. So
it's challenging for them not to pick it up.
And to not look at the birds and understand that there's a football game happening and parents screaming on the sideline. There's so much happening for them. Through those couple of years, Rose started to grow, and then when she finished the mini football, mini Ruse it was called at Melville, it was time to play on a larger pitch, and I thought, I think I'd like to coach at that point. And so the coaching gig was more time consuming than what playing would allow. So I started to kind of share my time amongst the playing and the coaching part. And as I started to upskill myself in coaching with education programs, stuff like that, it meant that I had to take more of a back step in the playing part, which meant I couldn't keep as fit. So I kind of moved into the goalkeeping side of things. Everybody needs a goalkeeper, by the way, Mary-Lou. If you ever want to play 100% in a game, put your hand up as goalkeeper and you are in. So I love it. I'm a thrill seeker. You put me in a four-wheel drive and my daughter clears the space and says, over to you, Mum, you go for it. So if I can get in front of a ball that's getting rocketed at me 100 miles an hour, that's me. I'm happy with that.
Wow.
So I'm happy to play in goals, and I do that at Melville now for the second division women's there. They're all young things. They're like, 17 to 25 kind of age. They entertain me. I stay in goals and I'm happy with that. I do my bit and they do their bit and we do okay. So I played just about every position on the park actually. Left,
so
right,
who's
centre,
Penny when
back.
she's not thinking or playing soccer? Well,
Mum.
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 That's another gig. Yeah, I love that gig. That's my first gig. Never thought I'd get married, but then when you're young and you got the world at your feet and you got so many ideals and ideas and different things that you want to achieve in life, it's just all that other stuff that's more permanent and mature doesn't really enter for a while, does it? It eventually enters.
I don't know. I'm a different demographic to you, and it was you got to a certain age, and if you weren't married, you were going to be a spinster, and it was like, oh my God, that's a horrible word that they use, spinster.
But so is retirement.
It sounds sinister. Spinster sounds sinister.
I don't think that's used anymore.
Hey?
I don't think that's used anymore.
No, it's not. Thank God. Thank God it's not. Because women are independent. It's totally different. It's great. I love it. Yeah.
Well, and retirement. I think of retirement as when I was younger, you would get a pension and there'd be a certain age that you retire at, and that age has been pushed back and back and back and back. And the encouragement to work your whole life is now there. And it just means you change your direction. You might not physically be able to do the things that you could when you were 25 and earn money with your body, but you'd earn money with your mind and you'd pass on the skills that you've learnt over a lifetime. Hence, being a coach and a mentor is something that kind of fitted with me in my soccer journey, because I wanted to impart whatever I could to others so they could enjoy the journey as well.
Yeah, and upskill quickly.
Well, or not. I mean, some people have an elite pathway and they're ambitious, and there's some kids that I coached when they were like 10 and 11 and 12, and they're now playing for Perth Glory and Australia.
Wow.
So, and some people are administrators, were never footballers on the park, but they like the off-the-park stuff, and they're working in media with Football Australia, travelling with the Matildas and organising their promotions and interviews and stuff like that. So, and there's some people that have sat in this studio and I've helped them with that journey, and there they are at different places. That's exciting too. That helps me. It inspires me.
Wow. And you run a construction company?
Yeah, a little fabrication company, manufacture. So it's a family business. So mum, dad, my daughter, she works there too, part-time.
Awesome.
Yes, that's 4 generations with Rose now, working in the office. So my granddad, he taught my dad. Yep. We should have had more kids. I could see them all doing the welding and everything, but at the moment we're kind of a boutique business that makes gates and does automation and security and frontages and stuff like that. And then we sell a whole stack of hardware related things like gate motors and locks and latches and fence bits and pieces all over Australia, and that's kind of grown through COVID. We have people working for us that have come from the soccer area, so I have a very big soccer network, so I'm like, I need someone in my office. Sure, I know someone. Great.
Yeah, good. Yeah, golly.
Keeps us all busy and keeps my family connected. I never thought I would be working in the family business when I was going through high school and university, but it's what I've grown up knowing. My family's very close.
So what did you do at uni?
I did sports science and business. I got a degree in sports science and did a few little asides in human resources and business and stuff like that. Yeah, and then after that I did a bit of travelling with football, Tried to find some professional football around the world, of which there was none. So I come back home, and then I started to study in the natural health areas like aromatherapy and massage and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so,
great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of get a holistic look on life and just kind of fill my mind up with whatever it could be filled with and see what opportunities are out there to grow myself and, yeah, take whatever pathway I needed in life. I'm always open to learning. I love it.
Yeah, I know. I have to keep learning, and it's like, oh, what else can I do? So it was really good to do that oral course that we did together, oral historian course.
Yep.
And I've been looking at, last night I couldn't sleep at all. And
pretty hot, wasn't it?
There's a song about that. It was the wind, actually. And I've got a door that goes into my garage, and it gets a bit of weather, so the timber has swollen a bit, and it won't close. So it's going bang, bang. And then the fronds from the palm tree would touch the top of the pergola, and you hear this whoosh, bang, whoosh, bang. And I go, oh my goodness, just can't sleep. Anyway, I was getting something there, but I forget what that was now. That's what happens when you get to this age. Oh, we shouldn't say that. Yeah, I need something more. What is it? Oh, I don't know, something. Oh, magnesium, that might help me sleep. But yeah, so I'd do the magnesium. I'd put on 432 hertz music. I think, so what else can I do? Okay.
You could write a book. You could get online and do some blogging.
I went through all my. I went through some things. I went through Ancestry, and I was going through a lot of Ancestry stuff, thinking, maybe I'm going to start doing a bit more research into that. I've been writing a book for many years. I've got a few books actually in my computer, but I'm a bit of a starter and a middler, but I'm not a finisher, and I've got.
You need some inspiration from something or someone.
I know. I know exactly what it is, but that will come in time.
Yeah. Well, it's great that you're making use of whatever's inside you that needs to have an expression somehow.
Yeah. Well, I think you get to a certain place and it's like, well, I'd like to meet more people. I'd like to actually I'd like to work. But then, okay, hang on, that will impinge on my spare time. What spare time? All of it.
Yeah, that's my greatest love about football is the connect, the network, the engagement, the team. I mean, you play it and you 11-a-side, traditional football, and you're out on a park with 10 other people on your side, then 11 people on the other side. So there's 22 people on the park to start. So there's going to be communication. There's going to be engagement. And it's a good life experience being in a team sport. It's something that I strongly believe that kids should be involved with because it's like a community. It's like a village bringing up the child. You have a coach, you have parents, you have other people. You have to conflict and you have to work out the dynamics and you have to be nice and respectful and courteous to figure out what it is that you need, score a goal or work with a team to get a pass and you can not like other people, but you've got to respect that they are part of the team and you want to win the game, so they also want to win the game. You've got something in common. How are you going to work together to achieve that?
That's really interesting that you may not like some of the players in your team, but you have that respect for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's something that would carry on from people being in team sport to life skills.
100%. Yeah. I had to figure that one out, especially this year. I've young lot of charges that I have at girls 16s team, and it was a big challenge for personality wise and I'm learning a lot about things. I mean, as a mum I'm learning a lot because I'm a teenage girl, but just having a whole lot of teenage girls around me was like, whew,
oh my goodness,
all these things in soccer that I never thought I'd be doing and I am doing, but you know what, it seems scary at the beginning when I look at some of these that seems like mountains, like I'm never going to get married, or I'm never going to coach, or I'm never going to play in goals, or I'm never going to, if I coach, it might be the young ones because they'll do what I say, but I'll never coach 16-year-olds because they'll have a lot to say and that'll be scary. And then here I am in all those spaces now, and you know what? I just got there.
Yeah.
I didn't just go, oh my God, I'm going to jump in. It was like, I just got there somehow.
Well, that's like
a journey.
You want to make God laugh. Tell him your plans.
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of laughs.
And then it's like, oh no, you're doing that. Oh no. Yeah, it can't. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it has to be laughs along the way. You got to, break the conflict and the anger and the ice and the things that aren't working with something. Laughter is it.
So tell me, what brought you to start looking at things like massage, and what else have you done? Did you say
aromatherapy?
Aromatherapy, yeah.
Yeah.
got thousands of aromatherapies. Oh,
Yeah, kinesiology was another one that I did. I had a great mentor. She's passed in the last couple of years, but just some of the skills, I think that we don't use all of the abilities that we have, and we kind of take things for granted in life, us humans. A lot of things become automatic, and it's just that comfort zone that doesn't then move into the next space of, well, what else? And what if?
Yeah.
And what can we do too?
Yeah.
And I just thought, there's got to be some other things. And, you have that gut instinct where some people just ignore it and other people go, yeah, I'm going to listen to that. Don't know why, but it's so strong, I'm going to listen to that. And I've always been very instinctive, like as a player and a person and doing things in life. And I thought, I met a few people that were studying in that area, and the instinct and what they were doing kind of married. And I thought, I think I'm just going to move into that space. So I did, and I met more people that were instinctive, kind of intuitive people. And I liked it. It was about listening to yourself and learning about yourself and being in tune with other people in a different way that wasn't athletic, and it wasn't being competitive. It was just in a holistic kind of way that was respectful and quiet. And yeah, so I explored a few different therapies and met different people, and it was very comfortable and nice. And yeah, not everybody kind of relates to it and understands it because they're not in tune with it themselves. They don't understand it, they ignore it or whatever. But I just, I felt that I was akin to that. And I, like a lot of other people, I go back to my automation and my comfort zones, and I forget about it from time to time when I'm busy in work and family and whatever else. But I like that. That instinct is very strong with me. And sometimes it's the stupidest things, like I'll go to buy something from the shop and I'll have $20 in my wallet, and I look at something and I go, I really like that. And something says, don't do that. You've only got $20 in your wallet. And I'm like, but I really like that, but I don't need it. And my gut goes, and I'm like, okay, I won't buy it. So I don't buy it, and I go away and I don't think about it ever again, but I know it was the right decision. And if I'd bought it, my gut would still be going, and that's your gut instinct, right? Sometimes it's just not a reason, it's just compellingness.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find mine is sometimes it's a little bit different. It's like I think, oh, look, I need such and such, and then I'll forget about it. Then I'll go into a shop. It's like, oh, that's exactly what I need, and it's actually on half price, And thanks for taking me to this shop, because I would never think I would come into this shop, and suddenly it's there. So yeah, like what is that? It's just an awareness, and I think you talked about space. So going into that realm where you're actually tuning into your body, because as an athlete, you're so tuned into your body. And a lot of people, I find, especially a lot these days, are in their heads all the time, and they're thinking. And we used to say, if you're thinking, you're stinking. You want to actually lose your mind and have the awareness of space. Then you have access to everything. Whereas if your mind is full, that's why I really don't like that word mindfulness, because it says that your mind is full, whereas you want your mind to be empty, and you've got access to all that information, but it's not filling your mind, so you can't receive anything else.
Do you know that? And that's akin to when we have our busy lives and we need to say no, but we can't, and we don't have time. We have poor time management. That saying is because we have our work and our family, and people have asked us to do things, or there's jobs on our to-do list and we haven't got to them. We're full. Like, we can't fit anything else in.
Yeah.
So you've got to learn to prioritise. That's the modern day thing. Learn to prioritise and time manage better, so that you can make space in your life and have space in your mind, so that you can consider and do your due diligence about your own life and make good decisions. And this is why technologies are awful for young people at a young age, because they're taking up that space instantly. So they don't have the consideration time, the free time to relax. And so many kids I hear say, so what am I going to do if I don't have my phone with me? How about you just read a book, you speak to someone, you twiddle your thumbs, you do some doodling, you write in a journal, you go bake a cake. I mean, why should that stop life happening?
Yes, I know. It's fascinating.
Whole new conversation with that one, right? But it's having this. You have to have space in your mind at some stage, which leads to space in your body so that you can just relax. If your body's on high alert all of the time, I believe that is a reason to get sick and have disease, because your body needs to be relaxed to do its healing and its all the stuff that bodies naturally do. Yeah,
sleep
that's
is
right.
Good. So I keep telling myself.
Yeah.
Sleep. Okay, sleep.
Cut back that frond off the garage so it doesn't keep you awake, and then you can have that sleep.
I looked at it this morning, and I've got my handyman coming around, and he's already raised it off this once, shaved it off once. He's going to have to do it again. And I can't, I've contacted so many people about getting something to protect it, but it's almost impossible unless I actually get a whole new pergola and lift it up a few more feet. And then someone wanted to put some holes through the garage. I went, nope, I've just had my garage redone inside. It's got all lining. It's got all this. I'm not having any holes put through any of those clay tiles, because that will just create another somewhere for water to egress through. No, not doing that one. So I have to put up with it all.
Yep.
I'm still thinking of a solution. So my guest in the studio on this beautiful warm day is Penny Tanner, who's the football historian, and she runs the World Football program on Saturday morning at Radio Fremantle 107.9 FM. And yes, and Penny was just telling me about a movie that she saw, and I went on the website this week actually. I went on Friday, and I thought, Somerville movies don't start till Monday. So tell us what was on.
Copa 71. So it's the unofficial Women's World Cup. FIFA suppressed it for 50 years, and I thank you for mentioning that I'm a historian, because it's kind of just come to light this year with the Women's World Cup being jointly held by Australia and New Zealand, that a lot of history about our game, the women's game, has been researched and documented and put out there in the public space now, whereas it hasn't been so much.
Why would they
before.
suppress it? Do you know?
Well,
did they say about the movie?
Well, yeah, we can all have our thoughts about that, but some of the comments in the movie were that it wasn't proper. So basically 1920s to 1970s.
Because they were girls?
Yes. It wasn't proper for girls. So it wasn't a girl-like or a woman-like thing to do. So we're talking the 1920 to 1970 space, right?
Yep.
So there's a war in there. There's a world war in there. And during that time, men were off at war, so women played football, and they were attracting thousands of people to the games. But when they came back, they weren't allowed to play anymore. They had to.
It's just like the working.
Yes.
They made them work, and they worked on all sorts of things. And then as soon as the men came back, you're not allowed to work anymore.
So this is what happened in football, is that women were starting to play football, but then it became improper. So it obviously reached a groundswell where there was enough recognition being had in spaces where they'd be playing on the parks, that men would be watching the games, that they'd be asking for resources, and the authorities that would be at the time didn't like that, so they put a ban on it. So this Copa 71 came about through a group of businessmen in Mexico, and they wanted to put on a World Cup and see if they could make it a success for women's football. So FIFA said no, and they said they'd ban anyone or any association that endorsed it. So the businessmen, I think they actually owned the Azteca Stadium in Mexico, which is an amazingly huge stadium.
Wow.
So they had the games there. So it was privately owned. So they had it there, and they invited teams from England and Argentina and Italy, and it was a sellout. They were treated like queens. And
what year are we talking?
1971.
Oh, God, that's what's called Copa 71, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. So a team from England, for example, went and they were treated to all this amazing luxury and hotels and whatever else. They came back home and they were banned. There was no one meeting them, and they were slandered and so forth. And that happened to the other teams as well. It was just incredible. And this is...
Wow.
Oh, and some of the quotes in the film were just amazing, like, women in shorts. Well, that's a recipe that men like, of course. Oh. And then there was one of the other ones was... well, of course, FIFA suppressed it, because when men don't like something, they lash out, they ignore it, and they trash stuff. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty rough. But you know what? That's probably pretty true about this situation.
Yeah.
So it was by the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus.
Yeah.
So they were executive producers of this film. So there's a lot of research that went into it. And up until COVID period, there was maybe nothing on Wikipedia. So
really?
Yep. It was really
Did you know
suppressed.
about any of this before?
No, did not.
Wow.
And I'm a historian, so I've been involved collecting the history and collating it for Western Australian women's soccer for years and years and years. I wrote a book in 1991, and that was when I was going through my sports science degree at Edith Cowan. So that's now lodged at the State Library. The State Library didn't have any records of women's soccer. So going through the Women's World Cup period, I was working with the WA State Library in getting some of my archive that people had given to me and that I have, like photos and good memorabilia and whatnot, and they would digitise it and they would put it into their collection. They had a Game Changers exhibition at the front of the State Library during the Women's World Cup period. So that was the first start in a bit of recognition of the history. And but just this year with the Women's World Cup has been the catalyst for so many things. The Copa 71 movie has come out. There's so many more people writing about women's soccer, recognising all of the Matildas that had not been capped back from 10 or 20 and 30 years ago. They're going back through all the records now and checking all of that because don't forget, no mobile phone, no computers, no internet back then.
No.
So how would information be shared? Slowly. And it might have been lost because it was documented. But now people are finding their ticket stubs and their old match programs and their old shirts they're pulling out they didn't know they had from, under the mattress or buried in the backyard in a suitcase or whatever people did with them, and they're bringing them out, taking photos with their smartphones and putting them on all these sites that are popping up and sharing all this information. So all this stuff has come out like Copa 71 and people put it together and went, oh my God, for 50 years it was banned in a lot of countries. This is why a lot of countries around the world started their competitions in the 1970s after the 50-year ban was lifted.
Welcome to the age of Aquarius.
I know.
I talk about that a lot, about how there's still a lot of people who clinging on to this patriarchal society. And sorry, but that was the age of Pisces. We're now in Aquarius, and it's more of it's a horizontal, not a vertical platform. Yeah. So in the old patriarchal society, you had to work out where did you fit in the pecking order. But now it's more horizontal, so people are more equal.
Yeah. And it's a lot of things, isn't it? I mean, colonialism and the Commonwealth and a monarchy, and there's a lot of things about how we did things before that were totally different to how we do things now. But we've gone through a process and we're at this better place now. Yes, retrospectively, we could have changed a lot of things and there would have been a lot of equity and parity and less hurt and disappointment and all those kind of things. But these things have happened. We cannot change those, but we can move forward recognising that we're moving to a better space.
If you really want to, you can go way back to the Middle Ages and back to, how far back you're going to go until you start forgiving and start moving into the future.
Yes. But what I love now about women's soccer and the opportunity is, in my history, my research into the history is bringing a lot of people together and enabling people to remember a lot of things that they'd forgotten about and uncovering things that might have been lost about history but wasn't actually lost because someone remembers it and then it triggers someone else and they go and look in their suitcase or they go and ask their grandchild who adopted the estate and that person played for Australia and all these kind of things are starting to come out and complete what I'm going to call the timeline, because on my Women's Soccer WA website, which I've started, which will be my book eventually, my second book. I was
about to say, where's your book? Where's the book coming out?
It's coming, but it'll take years. So, all these things infill into the timeline. Like this person has a ticket stub from this event. We didn't know this event happened. This person was there. And,
can people post on your website or not? Or can they contact you by email?
They can contact me. So I've got a Facebook page called womensoccer.com.au.
Okay. So does it say Penny Tanner somewhere or just?
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
Good. Penny 100%. Tanner. Remember that?
Yep. Yeah. So thank you. So I just post as much information as I can on that website. Then I put it into the timeline on my website, and eventually that website will become the book. So when I've completed everything and there's nothing left, and it's just today onwards, then all that information is going to go into a book, and all the stuff I've collected can go to the State Library and the State Museum, because I've been working with them and trying to make sure they've got some archive and some footage that they can digitise it in their amazing technology that they've got there and share it with the world. That's what we want, right? We just want to share it and make it all better.
I'm so glad you came in, Penny. Thanks so much.
It's pretty awesome to talk about all this.
Well, I'm all excited about everything that you just talked about then. It's like, I'm going to go and watch that movie. I might even watch it tonight, because there's nothing like the Somerville on a warm night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, It was actually quite beautiful. I forget which night it was, Monday or Tuesday night. It must have been Monday night. And I don't know how many people they get in there, but there was all these lounge chairs set up and these beautiful pine trees, and it was night, so it was about 7 or 8 o'clock that it started, and it was cool. It was a lovely breeze. You wouldn't have thought it was a really hot summer's day.
No.
So I'll be back there again. Yeah.
Who told you about it?
Well, I like to connect with a lot of different things, so somewhere in my feeds.
Secret.
Oh, my God. And can I just say that all of this is... I get really, really excited and really inspired by people around me. Like their stories inspire me and excite me. So telling the history is telling their history like it's all about everyone else. I love it. So the radio and the coaching and the history and everything, it's just so exciting and inspiring for me. I love it. And my team on Saturday mornings, which is Hugh, Sean and Pete, we are a team. And we bring football every Saturday morning and we tell all different stories. And it could be Para Matilda from Western Australia. It could be the Matildas coach or a media person, or it could be someone who's starting a club somewhere or someone who's got a hard luck story and we need to tell it. It's just telling all the stories about life. I love football. It is a forum for so much stuff.
Oh, it comes across. So thanks, Penny. And if you'd like to listen to it, we'd love you to be another one of our listeners listening on Saturday morning to Penny Tanner and her team on the World Football Program. So thanks so much for coming in and sharing everything that you have with us. And, how does it get any better than this? What else is possible?
It just keeps on going.